Today's Talk About It Tuesday question is: how do you protect your intellectual property while trying to build your brand and audience across social media and YouTube, for example? Okay, so I get this question a lot by new people, and let me say a couple of things to try to reframe your thinking and alleviate your fear just a little bit. More people have failed because they were invisible, meaning they didn't put themselves out there as much as possible in an effort to reach their target market. More people have failed being invisible than have failed because they were copied and outperformed by someone who did what they do. So put that in perspective. The second thing is, if you're not being copied, so you will probably be copied at some point. If you are not being copied, your product or service is garbage. So the biggest form of flattery is to be copied, for other people to try to duplicate what you're doing. Your goal is to outperform the people who will eventually try to copy you. Eventually, somebody, if your stuff is good, if your stuff is selling, eventually somebody will copy what you're doing or try to copy it, whether it's domestic or foreign, right? If it's really good, somebody will do it and try to sell it cheaper. Doesn't mean it's the same quality. So you got to outperform people in what you do. So let's just reframe that. You're going to get copied if you're good. If you're not being copied, you're bad. And it's just the way things go. So how do you protect yourself and minimize some of the effects of people copying you? How do you slow it down? And when you're talking about social media, you do retain your copyright, your original copyright, but you have to prove things are yours. So you can do simple things like embed watermarks or your name or your logo in your videos if it's videos. I would also say that if something is proprietary, meaning it's very so exclusive, you don't want it out in the public domain, that you don't post it, right? You shouldn't post things that are critical to the success of your business or extremely valuable monetarily to your business. You don't post those things. You post other things that lead people to what's really saleable or which is really valuable. And again, if it's something about process, you don't do that. But again, when you are posting, if it's videos, if it's information, make sure your name is in there. Make sure it's time stamped in terms of date when you created it. Make sure your logo is in there. Make sure you use the copyright symbol for things that you want to maintain a copyright for. Make sure you have certain things that are important to you trademarked, right? Could be a logo that's trademarked. So you do the normal process of protecting intellectual property. So again, for processes or for certain inventions or whatever, you have a patent. For certain imagery or logos or phrases, you're going to have a trademark. For certain content, whether it's video or written, you copyright. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a formal copyright. If you put the symbol C on there, you're claiming that you're copywriting it, right? So again, it's time stamped. Everything you create is time stamped on your computer. You can prove that it's yours. So now what if somebody does copy? What if somebody takes it from social media? You can report it to the actual platform, and they will try and protect your intellectual property rights by either making the person take it down, they'll take it down, or actually banning the person from the platform. So sometimes it's as simple as that. A lot of people just copy and repost your stuff. Reposting now, you gave permission to do in most cases, unless you didn't allow the share, and because there's settings. Also, you can reach out to the person privately and say, hey, this is my intellectual property. You don't have a right to use it. Take it down. If that doesn't work, you can have an attorney send a cease and desist letter letting them know that you have violated my intellectual property rights. And if you continue, then I will sue you. And if you have to, if it's something really important, if it's a small thing, you should probably just ignore it, right? But if it's a bigger thing and they're making money off of your product or service, or you're losing money because of what they're doing, then you might have to, have a lawsuit. But lawsuits are very expensive, so you have to weigh the cost of that too. So um, in most cases, I wouldn't worry about it. I would put it out there because you have to reach your target market in order to make money. You have to grow your brand, and it's one of the social media is one of the most inexpensive ways and extremely broad reach in terms of reaching a specific demographic. You can target your stuff to meet a certain demographic and get immediate feedback. So I wouldn't run from social media. I would use the proper platforms that would reach my target market. I would, again, embed certain things in my stuff that I post so that everybody knows that it's my stuff. So whoever uses it would have to actually do a copy of it. They couldn't take my stuff and actually use it because my stuff is embedded in it. I would absolutely 100% report them to the platforms. I would 100% reach out to them myself. And again, if need be, send a cease and desist letter. But that's pretty much it. That's the process. But like I said, if you're not being copied, it's because your stuff is trash. So you aren't relevant until somebody copies your stuff. So you should think of it like that. But again, you do have to protect things that are important. So the things that are most important, you don't really put out there. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Please like, share, subscribe, keep the questions coming, and I'll see you next Tuesday.